Westlake. You beat you. Point 262. I quit. No, you can't quit.
That's an easy night for y'all. Y'all come here and box me up real quick, probably clip me, then go home.
As a business, I understand. I ain't gonna hate on the decision, but as a man
Your
and
pride
as
will
a
get in the way.
fighter with my integrity.
Under the bright lights of Las Vegas, whispers turned into roars. Gervonta "Tank" Davis, the smaller man, the knockout artist, now stood before one of the strangest challenges in boxing history. Jake Paul, a YouTuber turned fighter, heavier by nearly 70 pounds, taller by half a head, and built like a natural cruiserweight. The world looked at the size difference and called it madness. But in boxing, madness often becomes the stage where legends are made. Tank had always been the smaller man. From the streets of Baltimore to the toughest gyms in America, he learned to slip under the punches of men twice his size.
You know, we got some great guys coming in, some really experienced southpaws that are smaller. I think Montana Love is coming in. Shakur Stevenson wants to come in. Jermaine Ortiz. We're gonna hit up Erickson, Lubin, some of these guys. So we're just gonna bring in a plethora of fighters that are fast.
Every duck, every weave, every short counter had been sharpened against giants. Those instincts, built through survival, now defined his greatness. To his supporters, this wasn't new territory, just another test of will against muscle and mass. Yet the doubts lingered. Analysts pointed out the obvious. Jake Paul was huge. His reach, his frame, his power, all advantages that could not be ignored.
Taking that opportunity because this is prize fighting, right? It's about making money and securing your family. Can you fault him for that?
It's two sides of that. Like,
okay.
It just depends. Like, as a fighter, just because I had a draw with somebody, for me, I may run it back. But in a business aspect, if you run it back and you lose to Lamont, and then the Jake Paul fight is presented, you may not make as much money, or the fight may not be as lucrative as it was before you lost. So as a business, I understand. I ain't going to hate on the decision, but as a man
Your
and
pride
as
will
a
get in the way.
Fighter with my integrity.
Yeah, but isn't there a price for everything, Shakur? Like, even if you had a draw with somebody and you were offered 10 times more than you ever, I don't know what the number is, but it's a lot more than he's ever made. You think you might consider doing the same thing, right?
I would, but you got to also realize, I know that it's not going nowhere. Like, the fight ain't going to go nowhere. Like, say, because if I really believe in myself.
Right.
And I wholeheartedly think, like, if we fight again, I'm going to win this fight.
That fight still be there around the corner.
After I beat this motherfucker, where you at?
Yeah.
The fight still there. It's not going to go nowhere. But if I have a 50-50 thought process to where it's like, yeah, I got doubt in my brain, I may be like, all right, fuck it.
Also,
Let's
in his
cash
case,
out.
case, it might be that he's tired of fighting anyway. He's leaning towards retiring anyway.
Let's cash out.
So he just.
This wasn't Crawford against Canelo, they said. This was a lightweight daring to step into the world of heavyweights. Even the most seasoned voices admitted that this fight defied logic. A natural 135-pounder facing a man tipping over 200. It wasn't just bold, it was dangerous. But Tank's camp stayed calm. His coach, his team, his sparring partners all knew his secret weapon: timing. That perfect moment between an opponent's swing and Tank's counterpunch. They believed if he landed clean, even once, the shock would erase all talk of size. Because when Tank connects, even heavyweights crumble. He hits like he's built from concrete.
For, like you said, a guy who is shorter than you, how do you find a sparring opponent to replicate something that obviously, you know, there's nobody else out there that's Tank Davis? How do you prepare for a guy that's different stature-wise?
Yeah, no, we have world champions. Raymond Ford in the 130-pound weight class. We got Montana Love in. Shakur Stevenson is coming in this week. So just sparring against guys on their level and people who have, you know, been doing this their whole entire lives. But we're really focusing on speed and not as much on power. I'm not doing as much like weightlifting and all of that stuff. I'm actually trying to like lose some muscle so that I have less weight and so that.
One sparring partner once said, "It's not the punch you see, it's the one that steals your balance." In the weeks leading up to the fight, training camp was a storm. Tank brought in bigger men, middleweights, light heavyweights, even heavyweights, and tore through them. He sharpened his defense, perfected his footwork, and studied Jake Paul's every move. To him, Jake wasn't a mountain. He was just another target that hadn't been hit yet.
For sure, it's a lot of people that switched over now. Everybody's like, "Oh, I've been telling y'all, Shakur." I know y'all have not. Y'all all been quiet.
They on the bandwagon now.
Do you actually, we talked to Virgil Ortiz, right? He told us that he be screenshotting a lot of the hate on Instagram to remember to maybe one day comment on their posts. Do you remember certain comments or posts that bother you?
I remember it, but like I'm not gonna screenshot it. What I do, I kind of like if I see something, I be ready to argue it or go back and forth, but I get up and run.
But
I'm
I'm
like,
talking
fuck
about
it, I'm
Sit
gonna
up
go
and run.
run 3 miles.
It motivates you.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm
for
talking
sure.
about like somebody that in the boxing industry that you respected, that you kind of was disappointed, like, damn, like
Everybody, except for the people that's like right there with me, like the Bud Crawford. He's somebody who kind of stayed with me throughout everything, and I think he's one of the realest people in the sport of boxing. But everybody, I feel like everybody just said,
like commentators, people that host shows,
people around me started moving different.
like
everybody,
like friends.
everybody,
Really?
everybody.
So you had to cut some people off?
Yeah, yes, I cut people.
People
off.
you thought were friends.
Yes.
When you say moving different, what do you mean?
I ain't gonna like go into detail because I ain't gonna need to put everybody on the spot, but a lot of people start looking at me different. Social media make people think a certain image or certain things about you. Like people I walk into every day, like, bro, I know you. I've been around you for years. You know me. So if you know me, how you feel as though that you gonna go and look at me different or treat me different than what I already was. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, what did Turkey say after that win, like on a personal conversation? Did he say anything to you?
Nah, he just said, good job. We're gonna get you on and
belts. We have Tank to get a couple of the belts, and you have a undisputed fight for those two in Las Vegas, in America, between two American guys getting undisputed championship of the world. That would be a mega fight. And we're talking about two guys that you have the most dominant, persistent, powerful guy, pound for pound powerful guy, I should say, in Tank, who also is very good defensively. But then you're fighting the best defensive fighter in the entire world, in my opinion. That is a fight I would love to see happen. I would be a big fan of, but I think if we could let that kind of fester and develop for a little bit and we get that fight, summertime next year, fall of next year, where this is an undisputed fight, I think that's the fight we would love to see have happen. I would be all for that. And I think it's realistic. Like I said, I don't think Tank's losing to anybody except for possibly Shakur, and I don't think Shakur's losing to anybody except for possibly Tank.
Meanwhile, experts split down the middle. Some called it a circus, a payday spectacle with no real consequence. Others warned it might be career-ending for whoever lost. Because if Jake Paul knocked out Gervonta Davis, fans would never take Tank seriously again. And if Tank somehow dominated Jake, critics would dismiss Paul as a fraud. It wasn't just a fight, it was a test of legitimacy, of pride, of boxing's soul in a viral age. Still, there were believers. Those who saw past the weigh-ins and the headlines. They remembered Tank's discipline, how he stayed sharp even between fights now, no longer the reckless kid who ballooned in weight.
Dean, that's bad. Because you know what that tells me? That tells me that even he recognizes that he's too big for him.
Yes.
He recognizes that he's too big for him.
I'm wondering how this even came about. It can't be that Gervonta Davis needs money. That can't be the reason why
He's
he's
been a world
taking this
champion
fight.
so recently. How could he be broke?
That's what I'm saying. Like, is he doing this for money? And then why and how is even Jake Paul doing this when no one respects it? Like,
But
I
Jake
can't
Paul-
think of anybody that respects this.
But Jake Paul has been able to carve out and make his own lane in boxing, and I've never seen anything like it, bro. He literally, we don't know what weight class he fights in any situation. We just don't know. He kind of makes his own rules.
He makes his own rules.
And it seems like people are playing by those rules. I remember a couple weeks ago, the WBC and the Jose Suleiman was very upset that he wasn't going to be able to put the belt on the winner at Canelo versus Crawford. That's the thing that's happened since the beginning of the time. Those guys are very powerful in boxing. But with Zuffa boxing, it was almost like that power was getting stripped away. They were very disappointed. But how can you take those sanctioning organizations seriously when they are sanctioning this?
That's my point. That's why I think that this whole thing that we have, this boxing and this MMA argument and Zuffa getting into boxing, our argument is misplaced because Things like this should not be happening. And
No.
the fact that boxing is allowing this to happen is an embarrassment to the sport.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I talked about this before. Like, I didn't know why they were fighting because, I mean, Gervonta Davis's last fight was at 100.
So on and so forth. So, with that being said, why even want to entertain the fight with Tank Davis? I mean, how much credit are you going to really get, Shakur, besides the money, right? That's what Tank brings. He brings interest. He brings a lot of fans in the seats, you know. But as far as legacy goes, if people are holding Tank at a very low status, what, do you need him? Do you really need him? How you doing, man? Good morning. Do you really need him? Because I personally don't think that you need him, you know. Shakur, you should be here to create your own legacy. You know, you're about the competition. You are about that bread as well. And I think it's important for you to really look at the landscape, man, of boxing and see where your big money fights are, you know, besides Tank Davis. As you know, you hear through the grapevine, I think he even told you on X that, you know, he's contemplating retirement after his Jake Paul fight. You know, you're getting ready, hopefully, if Teofimo Lopez signs the contract, Shakur, to be fighting Teofimo Lopez, who has accomplished quite a bit in the sport, man, and has been in the ring with some legends, Josh Taylor, also Lomachenko. I think that type of fight makes sense. You know, going up to 140 pounds, getting it.
They saw a mature champion, locked in, focused, and deadly. His team called it the best version of Tank ever, a man fighting not for money, but for the principle that skill always conquers size. Jake, on the other hand, had the confidence of a brawler who'd learned just enough to be dangerous. His team promised to exploit every physical advantage. They said Tank wouldn't be able to reach him. They said once Jake landed clean, it would be over.
And even shock myself and show myself what I'm capable of.
When you picture how it goes down, is there something that you see yourself doing? Do you see yourself knocking him out? Do you imagine being victorious? And what would that mean for you? A guy, again, who has only been in this sport for a couple of years. You've turned it on its head. You've had a massive impact, clearly, in just a few years, but it's only been a few years. That's the bottom line.
No, exactly. This is my 5th year as a pro. And so I've had to progress faster than anyone else in the sport to be able to compete at this level and to be able to hang in there with these guys. But I do believe that I have the power and the offense to be able to walk Tank into a knockout like I've done with other opponents and set them up for it. And so I am fully confident in my ability, and I think it would be one of the craziest upsets in a long time.
Yeah, one of the craziest upsets ever, probably in many people's eyes. Well, I think I saw Cardi B just put a $250,000 bet down. It was a parlay, I believe, on Aspen all over Cyril Gahn. But then for Tank to beat you, have you seen that? And what do you think about Cardi B potentially placing a $250,000 bet here?
I didn't know.
I just saw.
Stevenson reached out to Jake Paul in support of him preparing for Gervonta Davis. Help me understand, what is the difference between Boots Ennis reaching out to Canelo Alvarez in support of his preparation for Terrence Crawford versus Shakur Stevenson reaching out to Jake Paul in preparation for his fight with Gervonta Davis? Tell me, what is the difference? I'll tell you what the difference is. The Ennis family actually had a relationship with Canelo Alvarez. Shakur Stevenson has no relationship with Jake Paul. None. We heard, oh, Boots is a sparring partner. How much you got paid for that? So now, isn't that also applicable to Shakur Stevenson? Is he not also a sellout? I don't want to hear anything about this fight. It's against a YouTuber, it doesn't matter. No, Shakur Stevenson is an elite level fighter that is going to be a sparring partner to a YouTuber, and he reached out to him directly?
But underestimating Gervonta Davis had broken careers before. As fight night neared, tension filled every corner of the sport. Press tours exploded with heated exchanges, stare-downs turned personal, and every quote became a headline. Fans debated endlessly. Could power built for lightweights dent a frame carved for heavyweights? Or would this be the night boxing saw a smaller man bend the impossible? In the end, all the talk, all the predictions, all the analysis faded beneath the sound of the opening bell. Two different worlds stood across from each other. YouTube fame versus lifelong skill. Internet power versus boxing craft.
And it's crazy, but people getting paid off of it.
Yeah.
So if he can call any one of y'all out and y'all can get that payday, I say go get it, baby.
You know,
I'm not mad at it.
For me, and I'm not mad at this move at all for Tank Davis, but I think when it comes to boxing fans, there's an essence that comes with this sport, and it's an essence that hasn't been lost, unlike other sports. For an example, with football, we come from the hitting days.
Yeah.
Can't hit nowadays. You know what I mean? So boxing hasn't lost its essence. You know, they're trying to make it safer and all those sorts of things, but there's still this pureness to boxing that really doesn't exist in sports anymore, but it's still there with boxing. I think that's why people have such a problem with this kind of move from Tank Davis.
Is it more the heart? How do you guys feel being boxers?
Man, like once you hear the numbers, I'm like they're talking like I don't know the official one. They're talking about like 100 mil.
Oh damn.
Like, they're talking about these insane numbers. Like I'm gonna be like, don't take that. I'm not gonna tell another man not to take that type of check, especially for something like that. It's not on your official record. It's an exhibition. I'm not gonna lie here and act like I'm not gonna say yes to 100 million or something like that. But I do see exactly what you're saying about the essence of boxing. I wish they would kind of separate it a little more because exhibitions have always been a thing. There's always been an argument.
Right.
But they're just selling it like a real fight almost.
Right.
So I think that maybe if we could create a better like distinction, more of a difference.
Right.
There might be less hate on it, but at the end of the day, man, I'm not going to tell Tank not to take that fight.
And I said this last year. I said create a influencer title. And let those guys fight over there in the influencer world. They can live the world and the life of...
And whatever happened next would echo far beyond that ring. Because this fight wasn't just about who won or lost. It was about what's real in an era where the line between sport and spectacle has blurred. For Tank Davis, it was about defending the purity of the fight game. For Jake Paul, it was about proving he belonged among real fighters. And for everyone watching, it was about one question. Could a man built for 135 walk through a heavyweight and remind the world that greatness isn't measured in pounds, but in heart? The world would soon find out